Well, hello there, friends. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Renee and I am a food behaviour nutritionist, and I help women just like you finally get rid of the dieting roller coaster and instead adopt a life of positive food relationships and health. So welcome. Today is episode number 10, and I'm actually going to take you through a very simplified version of what I take my clients through. So what I'm talking about is I'm giving you 4 steps today that you can start to develop a positive relationship with food and yourself. Now, of course, I'm not expecting you to do it all at once, but with these 4 steps, you are going to be in a really great position if you're really feeling like you're ready to get rid of the dieting roller coaster that you might currently be on. So this episode is specifically for you if you recognize that you no longer want to diet, you're sick of feeling guilt and shame around food, you're sick of obsessing about food and counting calories and macros or whatever else, that you have fear and anxiety around food and you're just sick of it. You just want to stop. You just want to enjoy food and see food for food. So for today, I'm going to go through the 4 steps that I coach my clients in. Of course, there's many more, but these are probably the main ones that are great to get started. And I hope that it'll be useful for you to start today. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So the first step, the absolute first thing that you need to do if you're serious about developing a positive food relationship is to ditch diet culture. Now, if you're unsure what I'm talking about there, if you go back and have a look at some other videos that I've done, videos 7 and 8, where I've talked about wellness culture and diet culture, that will give you some ideas. But essentially, the way to do that is you need to start to get rid of the social media that promotes weight loss, thinness, body image, smashing yourself in the gym at all costs for this weight loss, anything that is related to how you look and less about how you feel. And make sure that you're careful about the ones that kind of sneak in there about health, because often that can be diet culture disguising itself in this wellness banner. So if you go back and have a look at those other videos, you can get an idea of what I'm talking about there. But essentially with diet culture, social media is a really massive platform there. So get rid of any accounts that make you feel bad about yourself, that make you feel like you need to look differently to how you currently do, or that you are inadequate simply by who you are and what you look like. Get rid of all of those. That's the first step in getting rid of diet culture. And outside of social media, start to surround yourself with people who are positive in their body image, who are like-minded individuals who aren't so wound up in what you look like and aren't wound up in weight loss. So that might be other health promoting groups in your community, other friends who aren't completely obsessed with dieting and weight loss. Really try and surround yourself with people and communities and different influences that you have got that aren't promoting this diet culture mentality. Okay, so that's step number 1, ditching diet culture. Step number 2 is all about challenging your food beliefs. So what I'm talking about here is you might believe that you can't eat food after 8 p.m. Or you might believe that carbs are absolutely off limits for you. Or you might believe that you can't eat a certain fruit or vegetable. Whatever it happens to be, I want you to challenge those food beliefs. And what this is going to do is start to open up your food freedom. So suddenly you're not going to have foods that are sectioned and petitioned in certain categories, but instead you're going to start to see that there are no food off limits. Now, I have spoken about this in another video, but essentially what you need to do with your food beliefs is to write all of them down, absolutely all of them, and then over a period of time, it might be, 1 or 2 a week or over a period of a month, however timeline you feel is comfortable, and go through and actively break those rules and see that most of them, in fact, probably all of them, don't really hold up as much weight in your belief system, that it's not actually really serving you in any way that you think is helpful for your health. Okay, so all about challenging those food beliefs is really about starting to get those the walls of your food little bubble to start to come down. Think of it like a tapestry where there's a tiny little thread and you're just pulling on the thread, and then all of a sudden the whole tapestry comes apart. Once you start to unravel one food belief, it makes it easier to do more and more and more, because you start to realize that actually a lot of this doesn't really make a lot of sense and isn't really backed by science. It's just something that I heard, or it isn't really serving me at all. Okay, so step number 2, challenging those food beliefs. Step number 3 is changing your food language. And this is a really great combo with step 2, where I'm starting to get you to see food as food. It's not categorized as good or bad. It's not categorized as clean or dirty. It's not categorized as natural and not natural, and none of that. You are just purely seeing food as food. So in this step, what I encourage you to do is to become more aware of the way that you talk about your food. For example, when you might decide to, I don't know, maybe have a ice cream. Maybe it's a really hot day, you want to go and have an ice cream. Maybe you start referring to it as, oh, I'm just having a bit of a naughty treat here. Pay attention to those words. There's nothing naughty about having an ice cream, and it's not necessarily a treat. It's just an ice cream and you feel like it, nothing more, nothing less. Words such as, oh, this is guilt-free, and, this is my guilty pleasure, those kind of things. Listen to the way that you are internally and verbally describing the foods that you're eating. Really pay attention to that. And then I encourage you to come up with ways that maybe you can describe those foods or describe the way that you're eating in a way that isn't categorizing them as either good or bad. And this all ties in to the part where these step 2 and 3 is all about getting you to understand that no food is off limits, that basically food is just food. There's no need to try and categorize it one way or the other, because it actually doesn't serve you in any way. Okay, so that's step number 3, challenge your food language and change it. And the final step, step number 4, is to get curious with your food. And what I mean by that is I want you to really start to pay attention to how food makes you feel when you consume it. So this is going to take a little bit of time. This is going to be something that you probably won't do every meal, but maybe pick a meal that's less chaotic for you. And let's say, for example, it's lunchtime. Let's say you're able to take a little bit of time at lunch. When you eat your meal, I want you to pay attention to how it looks, the smell of the food, the taste of the food. How does it make you feel when you eat it? Does it make you feel excited? Is it tasty? Is it delicious? Does it make you want more? Is it satisfying from a fullness sense? Do you feel like it's kind of lacking and boring and not really anything sustainable? Okay, so the reason why I want you to start to get curious with your food is this is one of the first steps to where you can start to understand the way that your body is communicating with you about the food that you're eating. And this is a really important step for down the path when you start to be able to be confident or more confident in your food choices based off what your body is telling you. So I don't expect you to make that huge leap yet, but this is a really important step. You're starting to understand whether you're full, whether you're hungry, the foods that you actually like, the foods that make you feel good, the foods that actually make you feel a little bit awful, okay? And they're foods that maybe you don't want to eat so often. So all of this is a really big part in starting to categorize foods based on you and your feeling, not from some external diet culture, not from some external food belief, not from some, food language that doesn't really make sense to you, okay? It's all about getting curious with the food from your perspective, how it makes you feel. So that's step number 4. So just a recap of those steps. First of all, you're going to ditch diet culture. remove social media accounts that have a negative connotation towards your weight, to what you look like, to health, anything like that. Anything that makes you feel bad, we want you to get rid of it, right? Ditch diet culture. Number 2 is challenging your food beliefs. So writing all of your food beliefs down and then systematically going through and breaking them, realizing that a lot of those food beliefs aren't really sustaining your health. They're actually not what you thought they would be. They actually have no basis. So go through and start breaking those food beliefs. Number 3 is changing your food language. So being aware of when you say things are guilt-free, guilty pleasure, good, bad, clean, dirty, whatever. Start to understand the way that you are verbalizing food and change it. Stop categorizing food. Food is food. And then the final step is getting curious with your food. Really take the time to chew it, enjoy it, think about all the sensory input that your body is telling you about that food, which is an important first step to later on when you start to become more in tune with what your body is communicating with you about your food. Okay, so they're the 4 steps. And you can implement those straight away. Yep. Doesn't mean that you're going to do it all in a day, but it means you can actually start those straight away. And you can be well and truly on your way to developing a positive relationship with food and yourself. Now, before you get started though, I have got 2 things that I want you to really be aware of before you get started. Now, if you're really serious about developing a positive relationship with food, one of the things that you cannot do while you're doing it, and I know it's going to be really hard, but hopefully with step number 1, ditching diet culture, this might help you. You cannot try to lose weight whilst you are trying to develop a positive relationship with food. Okay? The reason for that is it kind of contradicts what you're trying to do, because if you're constantly trying to make food choices related to weight loss, it's going to get blurred in the lines, right? You're still going to be stuck in those food beliefs. You're still going to be influenced by diet culture. Your food language is still probably going to be there, and you're probably not going to be listening to your body. Okay? So I really encourage you, and it's going to be difficult because I understand that we're so brought up in this diet culture where, well, you have to be losing weight. But I really want you to leave that behind. Okay? That's not something that we're doing at this point in time. All you're doing is developing a positive relationship with food, and you're going to have to leave the weight loss goals and ambition behind. Just focus on these steps, okay? Really, please don't try and do it. It's not going to work for you. And the second thing is I don't want you to try and rush this process. I don't want you to feel like if you haven't suddenly stopped obsessing about food in a week, in a month, in 3 months, that you're doing it wrong. This is something that's going to take time. And for some people, it's going to take longer than others, depending on how chronic your dieting history is, depending on what kind of belief systems you've got, how ingrained this is. This is something that can really take a lot of time. And it's completely individualized, okay? So if you do know someone that maybe has gone through this and they've done it relatively quick, please don't try and compare yourself to them. Your journey is yours alone. So I really encourage you not to be discouraged if you find that you're not getting the quick fix results that we often think that we should be having with this kind of stuff. You're rewiring your brain. That takes a little bit of time, but just know that if you keep the momentum up, if you keep doing step-by-step processes, you will arrive at a point where you do have a positive relationship with food. You do. It just happens, right? Momentum is the key here, people, so please don't be discouraged. Okay, so that's it from me today. Now, if you would like my help in this, I offer 6-week and 12-week packages, varying lengths of consultations where you work with me directly one-on-one, and we go through not only this process, but a whole heap of other steps that are built on from this, where you can finally have a positive relationship with food and yourself. So that's what I do. So if that sounds of interest to you, I encourage you to reach out, send me a message and let's get started. Let's do this together. But in the meantime, give these steps a go and let me know how they go for you. Okay, all the best, and I'll see you next week.